Huh? What's that you say? It's Monday already? Time for another episode of a weekly Waypoint. Oh boy. I've been doing this for so long. Can't I stop yet? Huh? Oh! We're sending this one back in time? Well, how far back in time? Oh. Yes, I remember doing this. Episode 300 and what? Oh, this was before we started doing seasons, I remember now. So, the third... No, I'm reading that the wrong way round. The 31st of the 3rd, 24, God. How old would I have been? 28. And this footage, this is from one of those Elder Scrolls games. The Elder Scrolls Online, I think.
Okay, Grandpa, get away from the mic. I'll be the one.
I'm trying to do my
I'll be the
thing
one to do the future talk. Okay.
I've been waiting to do this for years.
You don't have
can't take
to
this
do
away from
this.
me. Oh.
Everyone's gonna be frustrated at your really old sounding voice. I'll just read Christian's notes. You're Christian. This is how this works. Okay, sorry. Look, it's April Fool's Day, and I wanted to do something quirky and different, but I think if I subject you to my awful old man voice for an entire video, you're all just going to leave. So welcome. We are playing The Elder Scrolls Online today because I have just recently resubscribed to The Elder Scrolls Online Plus. I have just re-downloaded the game. I am getting, quote-unquote, back into it. Now you may be thinking, Christian, I thought your MMO of choice right now was RuneScape, and yes, it is, and it may continue to be, or it may not continue to be. Let me tell you what happened. As you may have seen in my latest Adventures in Gilnor video, I spent a long time grinding construction so that it could be my first level 99 skill on the account, and when you have a brain like mine, here's what happens when you set yourself up for a grind, and you So basically, here's what I was doing. I was doing construction contracts, which if you don't know is just me teleporting to various houses around the world and fixing up their furniture for boatloads of XP. And because this was a pretty mindless task, I was also listening to the Wheel of Time audiobook series while I was doing this, and I've made fantastic progress on that, by the way, more on that later. And so I fell into this pattern every day of this is what I do with my free time. And I fall into like a kind of grind trance. I'm sure anyone who's played these games kind of knows what I'm talking about, where the vibes are right, you're comfortable, you're happy to be doing this repetitive thing while you're also like watching something on a second screen maybe, or in my case listening to this audiobook. And then you finally finish the grind and you're finally done with a goal and you go, ah, and you look up and you go, finally, I can play the game. You know, it's the South Park episode. What do we do now? I guess we can finally play the game. And then they just yeah. Got my 99 untrimmed construction cape on my Iron Man. Will be forever pleased with that. But I immediately had trouble getting back into doing something else in the game. You know, I've been working towards 99 woodcutting. I've been doing the Easter event. I have been continuing to listen to the audiobook while performing mundane tasks. But it just isn't hitting the same, because I've been training my brain to do this grind, and my brain just wants me to keep doing this grind. Except there's no more grind to do. I mean, technically there is if I want to get to like level 120 construction, like the virtual level, but that's like an optional super duper grind, and I don't know, I don't think that would hit the same vibe either. So while I am continuing to look for new things to do in RuneScape 3, I have also decided, like, you know what, I'm feeling the call to get back into the Elder Scrolls Online, and so I'm back in here. I never finished leveling my Arcanist, as you can see. I don't really know what half the things on my part do, but I do remember you do the free sigil things, and then you do the book laser, and that's the combo, and it might seem repetitive, but it's still very, very satisfying. I've also been stuck. Oh, for God's sake.
You can't pretend to be me.
Granddad,
we had this set up from the very beginning.
Get out of here.
We were gonna send this
I'm
back
not gonna
in time.
tell you again.
It was gonna be a whole thing.
They're gonna think it's
you can't do this to me, please.
They're gonna think this is some kind of
my own children are betraying
wrong.
me.
They're gonna cringe. They're gonna think I'm posting cringe. Sorry about that. As this old man wanders through here sometimes, I don't have a heart to like kick him out into the cold, you know? It's raining. I don't think he has a place to live. Anyway, as I was saying, sorry, I've also been creating... What did he write? spreadsheets. I've also been creating, you know me and my spreadsheets. I like to write these MMO spreadsheets, and I made the most basic one for ESO a little while ago, but I decided to make a couple of new tabs on that ESO spreadsheet. I'm actually only half finished with one of them because it took a surprising amount of work. One of them is just all of the skill levels for my different characters, so that I can see where they all are and I can update. I like having a little color scale going up and changing colors, becoming darker and more purple, and then orange when you hit the cap. It's very fulfilling. And the other one I started to make, still unfinished, is just like a list of all of the different expansions and the different content to complete within those expansions, and which ones I have completed, haven't completed, which ones are partially completed, you know, like motif collections and stuff like that, to kind of really make it easier for me to pass like what is left to do in certain areas, and like where I can go and like, oh, if I feel like grinding a motif, I can look at the spreadsheet and go, oh, this one needs to be grinded out, so I can work towards that one. I still haven't done a whole lot of that kind of like quote-unquote MMO gameplay side of things in ESO, so yeah, I do enjoy that, and it's fun to create a spreadsheet incentivizing that for myself. Maybe one of these days I will create a spreadsheet incentivizing productivity instead of video game things, but that's crazy talk. One of the reasons, by the way, why I got back into ESO was I did have the itch to play ESO, but I had the itch more to play Guild Wars 2, and if you know me, if you've been following this channel, you know I can't play Guild Wars 2. I have some kind of really weird, rare issue with my PC setup, which I spent weeks troubleshooting. Well, it felt like weeks, it might not have been actual weeks, but basically I physically cannot progress through that game, and I had to put it down. And I really want, I kind of got the itch to play Guild Wars 2, and I'm like, I can't play Guild Wars 2, so ESO is the next best thing, I guess, in terms of, I don't know, aesthetic, game design. They're two very different games, but you know, it's closer to ESO than it is to like Final Fantasy 14 or something. Although I did just hear that they, ArenaNet, have said that they're now developing Guild Wars 3, so who knows, maybe Guild Wars 3 is when I will finally get to play through the fucking game. I do also keep meaning to go back and keep playing through Guild Wars 1, because that first video of mine I did in that got a lot of attention for me, and I feel a little bit guilty for not continuing it, but I found it to get pretty repetitive and grindy. But you know, while I'm in the Guild Wars mood, maybe I should dip my toe back in there. That's not a promise, it's not actually on the docket, I'm not really considering doing that, but hey, I don't know, I've said it in a video now, and I can't be asked to go back and delete that bit of commentary, because I'm really good at making videos. One thing I did do actually recently was I booted my external hard drive back up, which I don't like doing because for whatever reason it seems to like make the coil whine in my PC worse after, so I don't know what that's about. All I know is it makes me paranoid, so I don't like to have my external hard drive connected or on for too long, but it has all of my really old gameplay clips from back on my old PC, and also some from my new PC that I just decided to ferry over there for saving space. And I was looking at the stuff there, and first of all, I thought I had the main story questline experience of me playing Elder Scrolls Online Necrom, and for some reason that is not on there. So that's just not a video I get to make. I don't know where that footage went. Maybe I accidentally deleted it one day. I don't know. That's a shame, because I did really enjoy the Necrom MSQ, like the most enjoyment I've got out of a main storyline in this game since probably Morrowind. At the same time, though, it was kind of a relief because I have so much footage. I have so much footage and not enough time to turn it all into videos. But yeah, I was looking through that stuff, and there's definitely some old stuff that I still really want to turn into videos one day, so yeah, you know, YouTuber wants to make more YouTube videos, go figure, next topic. Now, I did say I would talk about the Wheel of Time, and you might think that's a topic for the Blurble Reasoning videos, and it is, but I want to specifically talk about my reading speed with Wheel of Time, because it took me 5 months to read Crossroads of Twilight, and then I got through half of Knife of Dreams in a week. And as I already mentioned, that's probably because I'm not just like, oh, I'll listen to it as I travel. Instead, I was like, I will listen to it while I am playing a video game through my free time, so I was listening to like 6 or 7 hours of a book a day, and I have slowed down a little bit, but we're still at much higher listening time hours, much more quantity, many number go up hours I'm listening more than I usually do. And the reason I want to bring this up is because if it sounds like every week I'm picking up different things and then forgetting about them the next week, I want to be like, hey, remember a couple weeks ago when I was on my Song of Ice and Fire hyperfixation? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I fed that into the Wheel of Time. I was going, man, I really wish A Song of Ice and Fire had an ending, had book 6 and book 7, and that I could go and read them. And I was like, hey, you know what fantasy series does have an ending? Which is the reason I started it in the first place. And, you know, watching Alt-Shift-X's videos dissecting, like, small, seemingly unimportant moments that actually could hint to, like, these grand conspiracies and these fun fan theories, which probably aren't true, but also, like, trying to predict the future of the series based on these smaller details, chapters, which at the time I found quite boring, did make me look back at the Wheel of Time books and go, maybe, like, I can approach those chapters with more interest. I think the biggest difficulty I have with the Wheel of Time's glacial pacing is that I am a very impatient person sometimes in terms of narrative. It's the same reason I had trouble with Yakuza Like a Dragon, because I just rushed the main storyline and then was underleveled for the end of it. When I get far enough invested in a story, I don't care about the small details, I just want to know how it ends. Not in like a I'm gonna go and read the wiki kind of way, but just in like a terms of how I prefer my pacing kind of way. So making myself care about, I mean, it's hard to make yourself care about anything that you don't care about, but you know, making myself kind of slow down alongside the pacing of a narrative, ironically, I guess, if that's how irony works, really has helped me speed through Knife of Dreams. Also, it helps that shit goes down in that book. People say that, I've seen people say anyway, that the Wheel of Time has pacing issues up until Brandon Sanderson takes over and then he quote-unquote fixes them. But I'm very happy to report, here's a sneak peek of the next Wheel of Time video. I'm very happy to report that actually Robert Jordan fixed a lot of those issues. I have just hit a block of Aes Sedai chapters, which are pretty boring, but again, I am finding new ways to enjoy those kinds of chapters. But for like 50% of that book, it was just straight up banger chapters, wall to wall. So, yeah, if you have the stomach for it, read The Wheel of Time. Oh, also I forgot to mention last week when I first mentioned about getting back into reading The Wheel of Time, another thing that got me into that is watching Brandon Sanderson reveal Secret Project 5, because one of the reasons why I've been getting into reading Wheel of Time isn't just because I want to read a really long running critically acclaimed fantasy series that has an ending. It's also because I read Mistborn trilogy in the first 2 books in the Stormlight Archive and went, Brandon Sanderson fucking rocks, and I want to read every single thing he's done, and I decided to start with his ending of The Wheel of Time. Of course, the prerequisite for that was to read 11 books of The Wheel of Time, and that was a decision I made 3 years ago. But yeah, he did a live stream, Brandon Sanderson, where he did 3 chapter readings from Secret Project 5, which is a novel set in his Cosmere universe, and it just made me so goddamn curious that I went, I gotta hurry up. I gotta finish Wheel of Time so I can get back to Brandon Sanderson and start reading through Cosmere, because Jesus. And of course I want to read everything ever written by like Joe Abercrombie and Robin Hobb and all these other fantasy authors, as well as getting into some sci-fi as well. I want to read the Expanse series, and I want to read Dune. I want to read so many books. And I feel like I'm finally cresting that Wheel of Time hill now, and I am just jubilant. There is no other word for it. I am jubilant. That is the word people don't think. Jubilant. Jubilant. People don't really say that these days.
Alright, get off the mic. I need to warn him about some stuff. Alright, now listen here. I'm gonna change the past once and for all. Capybaras look pretty cute, don't they? They're just like these innocent little pig-looking things. Well, let me tell you, when they have an uprising, it's gonna be bloody. Capybaras hold untold power within themselves that they are waiting to unleash. I swear I'm telling you the truth. Now you may wonder, Christian, since you're so far in the future, do you have some knowledge about video games? Where they're headed? Well, let me tell you, you're not gonna believe what Microsoft's next big acquisition is. You thought Activision Blizzard was big. Nintendo may have laughed them out of a room, but What about Sony? In recent news, Skyrim just got ported again to the Xbox Alpha Z Prime Deluxe. Bethesda say they are still hard at work on The Elder Scrolls 6, and I for one cannot wait to see the first trailer for the game. Footage for GTA 8 just leaked, and everyone thinks it's a big unfinished mess. I just say, if it's leaked footage, why do you expect it to look good? There's a reason they don't show you early game development. I swear this happened before. Alright, let's speed this footage up. I haven't got all day. What else? Halo Actually For Real Infinite Eternal the Forever Live service, a game that's never gonna get a sequel, just released. One Piece looks like it's finally going to be ending soon. Not that I've gotten around to reading it yet. I'm still finishing the Wheel of Time. Our Quogson overlords, which, if you're not keeping up, invaded Earth a few decades ago at this point, have been wondering if gaming is really that good for the brain, and may start restricting game time. They already control when we wake, sleep, eat, and shit, so I don't know why they want to control our video game time as well. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you all very much for watching another episode of Weekly Waypoint. I will see you next week, back when it will be normal time, 2024. Do you know how long I had to look to find this old footage for the end screen? God damn, my files are not organized very well. They never were. I remember Damaris. He was a good boy. Shame about what happened to him in Dawn Trail.